Hi, everyone. Welcome to TSP Weekly, your tech startup podcast.
Episode 100.
It is. It's an amazing journey. We're here at episode 100.
We kind of lied, though, because last week was episode 100, but we didn't want to pretend that.
We labeled it 101.
Yeah.
So
we wanted to save this.
My name is Stephen Campbell. This is Amaris Gerson. Today we don't have a guest. Today
we are our own guests.
We're celebrating our 100th episode, so we're just going to talk to each other.
And we're in a bar.
Today we're at the Firkin, which is a bar right next to Communitech and the Velocity.
It's pretty much
Google
attached.
space. Yep.
Yeah.
So very much part of the startup.
And the whole
culture.
room smells like bacon right now.
Yeah, they're rendering bacon early.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Hooray.
So what are we doing here today, Amaris? What are
We're talking to us. We're going to be the startup because we are a startup.
Yep.
We're just not a startup that makes money. We're just a for fun startup. Well, no, we want it to be more, but it isn't.
Not yet.
Not yet, but we have plans.
I was calling it a passion project for a long time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a passion project.
Yeah. So let me ask you my first question. Why
that
the
I
hell?
wrote for you?
Yeah. Why the hell are you doing this?
You asked me to.
Right.
And I have trouble saying no to cool things.
It is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a better question is why are you doing this? Because you have been doing this for exactly 101 episodes.
Yeah.
So why?
Yeah. So I really enjoy talking to people.
Yeah, you do.
That's my thing recently. It's funny, as I was a kid, my father, we always used to joke and call him the mayor because he would just walk up to random people and chat them up and
Was he elected?
no, but he knew a lot of people. He was connected.
Right.
And it was so embarrassing to me. I was a shy kid, and I would always say, are you running for mayor? Like, they're not going to vote for you. Like, why did you have to,
Right.
That was a useless transaction. Yes, everybody was friendly and everything, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But now I really get that it's people that are in those relationships that are really important in life.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy meeting new people, letting them tell their story, asking them questions.
Yeah, I think that's sort of it for me too. Obviously, I like to talk a lot. You know that.
Yep.
And clearly, I'm really passionate about the community and specifically the KW tech scene. That's partially why I do Hacker Nest locally, and I feel like I do other things. So I feel like every time that we talk to a company, there's a potential for us to help them or for them to help someone else, and that's really why I do it. And also, when you asked me, it was like episode 70-something.
Yep.
And I just felt like I could help this to make it more interesting. We could pivot it together. So we have, and we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, it has been fun.
Why do we do it every week? Because that's insane.
That is a good question.
Like, we're friends, but like every week?
That is a lot, yeah. And we actually talked about recording more at one time, so we didn't have to do it every week.
Yes.
It would have the appearance of
we still talk about
going
that.
out every week. Yeah, we're still talking
We're
about
still
that.
talking about that.
And I think that's a good idea, but I don't know. Like, originally when we started it, Darren and I, neither of us were employed. So it was part of a strategy to, I really enjoyed learning about all the different startups and was able to pick a startup that I really had passion for and am now part of their team full time. So that was part of what motivated me to do it is on a weekly basis. It was almost like a mini interview every week where I wasn't interviewing for a job necessarily, but I was interviewing to see what was out there. And I really liked that every week coming to me. Now that I'm working full time, it's a little more of a challenge.
Yeah, but it's definitely about that sort of skill building. You said you were a shy person.
Yep.
And I talk about this a lot, that you have to think of that those communication skills as a skill that you have to learn and practice. So that's what I preach at Hacker Nest is really learn to talk to those people because you never know where that could go. It could be friendship, it could be anything. But by doing it every week, I think it makes it easier for you and me to really stay in that vibe of talking to those companies.
Yep.
And then it gives people something to watch / listen to every week.
Giggle at.
Make fun of us.
Yep.
Talk behind our backs about.
We're talking about Dave and Brendan.
Yeah, pretty much them. The people that play with all of the cameras and things and the lights.
And just as an aside, one of our fearless leaders, Brendan, had a traumatic injury over the weekend.
He did well, yeah, because he thought it was a good idea to run. What was it?
Tough Mudder.
Did he do the Tough Mudder?
Yeah.
He was going to have a heart attack. He proclaimed that he would have a heart attack, but he didn't. He broke his foot.
Yes, Kendra prognosticated that he would be in the hospital.
I don't know that word.
And he was. She predicted in advance.
Yeah.
So poor guy. We feel sorry for you, buddy.
I don't. It's funny to watch you wobble.
Amaris doesn't. Yeah, he's a speedy hobbler.
Yeah.
Over the course of the sort of 30 episodes that you've done,
Yeah.
who stands out in your memory?
I think for me, it's obviously I'm going to gravitate towards the companies that I already know and have built a relationship with. So Magic is one of those companies that I feel I like those guys a lot. I think they are really a fun crowd. And what I liked about talking to them was that they were really open. Mm-hmm. They openly talked about the struggles they've had. Some companies we talk to are very guarded and they won't say anything, even though we ask them to talk about some failures or losses or pivots. They don't really say anything. Mm-hmm. They dance around it, so you don't actually get any truth about it. For me, being a very open, honest, transparent person, I think that by talking about your failures, you can actually help yourself and you can help others. So I like that Magic did that. There have been other companies that have done that as well, but I don't remember, and that's horrible.
It's funny
they
how
all blend together.
They do, even after 30, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that people will... I'll introduce myself to people, and they'll be like, I was on your podcast. I'm like, oh, my God, I forgot.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I liked Him and Her as well. That was, I mean, I know I work with Justin from Him and Her, and I've known them around the community, but to actually get down and hear about what their company is like and what it's like for them building that business, that's what I find really interesting that we rarely talk about in the tech scene. Is it sort of the realness of it? Like they're a married couple who, at the time that we recorded, were pregnant with their first child. Now they have a baby. So just to hear that real life side of startups, we often think of a startup run by, fresh university students,
right,
who can give up all sorts of bits of life, that they can eat Kraft dinner forever and ramen and not sleep.
Yep.
But the reality is, I mean, running a startup, it's part of your life, so you have to figure out how to make that work. So I really like talking to them because they did talk about that.
Yeah, normal people in the startup world.
Yeah, yeah.
Look back at episode 1. Do you remember that?
Your episode 1?
Your episode 1, when we came back on the air.
That was awkward.
Wasn't that awesome?
We learned a lot from that.
We sure did. Yeah, we didn't have a video recording of that. We were trying to do it ourselves in-house. That was before Open Rumble.
But then also, we didn't really have a strategy. We have learned, and we're still working on that, but figuring out how to guide our guests and each other into how to talk properly for that 30 minutes. I mean, 30 minutes is not a long time to get the information across. We definitely struggle with that still, but that was the first episode where we're like, oh yeah, that didn't go how we wanted. Not that they did anything wrong, but we didn't guide it properly.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we're getting smarter every time we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about...
Well, what about you? I want to hear about your first episode.
I think our first episode was Darren and I just doing this, sort of testing the equipment out and talking about...
For an hour.
Yeah, probably for an hour. I think we were talking about where we were born or some nonsense. Or
I don't care about that.
Yeah, no, I barely did. I don't think I've listened to it.
We should go back and listen to it.
But that was back at Conestoga College when we were sort of borrowing equipment, and we've since purchased it, and that sure was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
2 years ago?
LinkedIn told me that I celebrated my 2-year TSP Weekly anniversary.
Yeah, I saw that.
About a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little over 2 years.
And I came aboard in, was it February?
Yeah, so we sort of, Darren decided he had to do real things.
Which is fair. I mean, it's
totally
hard.
get.
It's a hard thing with passion projects is eventually you have to, maybe not always, but you might have to say, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Totally get it. We're still buddies. So he just needed to focus on other things that were sort of paying money.
Well, and the fact that he does have, we're talking about those grown-up things, but he's married with children. Like,
yeah, he's got some young kids.
There's other priorities involved there.
Yep. So he is doing some other stuff now. But that was sort of, we traditionally took December off. Traditionally, it's only been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So kind of looking forward to doing that again. So that wasn't unusual. We sort of ended in November.
Right.
And then you and I sort of talked, because Darren sort of announced in November that he was done. So then you and I were sort of talking through December about...
and pivoting that, we went from an hour to a half hour. We added video. We went from zero structure to a little bit of structure, which we might be adding more structure.
Yep.
So we've done that pivot. I don't think you guys over that 1 year
We had
me.
one pivot because we used to talk about like news articles.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And then we, because I was in school, so I had some classes that we were going through agile development and stuff.
Yep.
So we would put something out and we would go check with our listeners, all 10 of them at the time. I think I did a Survey Monkey or something. We got,
And it was your wife,
yeah,
Darren's
my
wife.
mom, stuff like that. So we got like 15 back or something.
Yeah.
And pretty clearly they all told us, we don't want to hear you guys talking about articles. We just
So-
want to hear the guest.
No one wants to hear this one. No one's going to watch this one.
I might watch this one.
Yeah. Maybe my mom will watch this one. She
Yeah.
doesn't like it, so she probably won't, but
Yeah.
maybe.
So, so we did one pivot based on
Yeah.
feedback from our guest. And it's interesting, since we've been back on board this year, looking at our statistics, our numbers are increasing every month. So,
You're welcome.
yeah, we're doing well. So we had one day last week where we had sort of almost 300 downloads in one day.
I think by really understanding this community, not no one. There are not many people here that are doing that hour-long drive that you would find in big cities.
Right.
So to have an hour-long podcast is a bit much. And people in the startup scene don't have a lot of time on their hands. Like,
Right.
All time is dedicated to making your company successful. So by dropping it down to 30 minutes, that I think initially just really helped us.
It's hard for me to be succinct sometimes.
Yes, it is.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
You did very well right there.
Thank you.
So what are your big fears that you struggle with when you podcast? Because
Sure.
you got notes. I don't have notes.
Yeah, I wrote some questions down. It's interesting. I became very comfortable podcasting without the camera, and it was very different once we added the camera on board. I didn't think that would be as terrifying as it is still.
Sure is terrifying.
But it's really weird because, like, just talking to somebody was very easy, and having the recorded audio later.
But part of that pivot when I came on board was that when it was Darren, you were sort of, what did you call yourself?
The color commentary,
Yeah,
or
like
the fill, or
yeah,
something.
you were just kind of there. You thought,
Yep.
in your head, you were just there to add jokes.
Yep.
When I came on board, you had to
we had to switch.
Yeah.
So I
We're
sort of had to
still
become
struggling
Darren
with
and be more of the sort of MC, I guess, and guide and open and close and stuff like that. So
and
that was an interesting shift in role for me because I got there. I didn't realize how hard that is.
Yeah.
Darren was pretty good at it. And I wish I had tried it a couple times because I would have had more appreciation for him. Because now that I'm doing it, I'm like, holy smokes! I almost want to hug him because
You should.
it's weird. Yeah. So
virtual hug.
it was easy for me to sit back and listen to Darren lead the conversation, and when I had something witty to say it.
Right.
And now I'm forced to think a lot more in advance of where we at and how are we doing for time.
But
and
we're
stuff
not
like
too
that.
bad on that. I mean, that's been initially what the struggle has been for you, that big fear. I think we're getting a little bit more comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be so in control because I'm pretty bossy.
I wish you had a note in front of you or something. It's interesting the different ways we work
Yeah.
and how we process it stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree for
So,
sure.
and I was going to intro this one, but I got wimped out.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Especially
it's
that
nervous.
camera, because you got to look at the camera. Like, it's right there.
It's true.
That makes it harder, and there's bright lights.
I didn't realize that I would have to think about what T-shirt I wore every week
Yeah.
because I don't really want to wear the same T-shirt.
Last
And
week
it's,
you went
like,
to
simple.
look for what shirt you wore last week because you didn't want to wear the same one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
go
I-
shopping.
I
for
have.
shirts.
It's true. I was like, I need more T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I have a TSP Weekly one that I'll wear a couple times.
we get
but
shirts?
I really don't want to.
I don't have any shirts.
Yeah.
I mean, I have like a bajillion startup shirts.
I'm thinking ponchos because
No. No ponchos.
the TSP Weekly poncho.
It would be hilarious. Really catered to our audience.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we have
Absolutely.
a few more people that watch us and listen to us now than we did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're still working on growing that, and our plans for the future will help with that.
What do you think you are? Are you more entertainment or are you education? Like, what do people get out of when I say you? I mean the podcast. Like, what?
That was a very hard question to answer. I don't know.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think people listen to us?
Well, right now we end up, because it's 30 minutes and we're really trying to get companies to be open about stuff. But like I said, they're quite guarded. We end up being a little bit like a commercial for them. So we do get their customers that are interested in watching that, maybe their VCs that are interested in seeing that, to sort of hear about what the companies are doing. Maybe that is so that they become a VC or become a customer or become part of their company as in an employment way. So I think people are interested in that. But the ones where we are a bit more, we get the companies to be a bit more open about things and be a little bit more transparent, we do tend to have more listeners or more downloads because people like genuine and people like,
realness.
That's, I mean, what is so nice about this tight community that we have, you can't be too guarded in this community because someone's going to find out and it's going to be out there. So you might as well, at least for me, I tried to be really hidden and that didn't work. So now I'm just really loud.
That's working.
Yeah, whatever. It works how it works.
Yeah.
But that is what people are attracted to. I think that's why people listen to us. I don't know. They haven't told us. Maybe they can tweet at us.
Maybe it's time for another monkey survey.
A monkey survey? You mean a survey monkey?
Survey monkey. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think we're. I don't know. That's why other people listen to other podcasts, is to learn things.
I think those are all valid points for sure.
We're also hilarious.
There are times that...
well, not really, but we think we're hilarious.
We have a lot of laughs before we set up, and then all of a sudden the camera comes on and we have to be serious time again. So
I'm not very good at that. That's why my mom doesn't watch or listen, because she's like, you just laugh all the time.
Oh, she doesn't think you're serious enough?
No, it's just like you sounding like an idiot laughing.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, my mom's
Number one
sweet.
fan. That's awesome. So do you want to do like a 3x3 on TSP Weekly?
We
or what
could.
do you want to do?
We could. Well, we can talk about. We kind of have already talked a little bit about
Some struggles and fears and
our pivots and that kind of stuff. But we can definitely talk about our future.
Sure. Yeah, I want to say a success. I think one of the successes is having you join the podcast because that was cool. You're connected with the community down here.
So are you.
So that was, absolutely.
Put together.
So in little different ways. So that was really cool because I like meeting all the people that you know. So that sort of expanded my network as well. So that's really cool. So I consider that a win.
I think the win has been that we have managed to, because it was sort of a trial. Like, hey, Amaris, do you want to join this? I was like, yeah, okay. Honestly, if it was awful, I would have said no and been gone by episode 4 of me being on.
74, whatever it was.
Yeah. So,
and I remember even at 4 when we were still like, wow, I don't know. This is tough. Like some ones are great, and then sometimes you have one and you're like, wow, did I ever look like an idiot? Sometimes like I'll feel like I asked the wrong questions, or they looked at me like, you don't know anything about med tech or whatever we're talking about. And often I don't.
No,
so,
well, I think that's what companies need to learn. So that is something that we kind of need to educate, not us specifically, but everyone needs to educate these startups, is that, you know your customers, but when you're looking at, they all of them say that their future and their challenges is recruiting talent. The reality is if you can't translate what you do to regular people, even your unicorns or whatever you want to call them, then it doesn't matter. So if you can't translate that to us so that we understand, and there have been episodes where I still don't understand. And I'll keep asking questions.
30 minutes to ask them questions about it.
And so, I mean, they're really good at explaining to their customers, which is one thing. But part of that whole sales process and the whole marketing process is it's about translating, because there are customers that they could have if they could understand what it was.
Yeah. What about the biggest failure for the podcast? For me, it's like I don't tweet enough.
Yeah, well, the problem is I have a full-time job. I have a very full-time job.
Plus a full-time, part-time.
Plus a part-time, full-time volunteering.
Yep.
Plus I mentor a lot. Plus I struggle to have a social life. I'm not very good at it, but I try to have a social life. So combining all of that plus podcasting and then knowing that I should probably tweet and probably schedule stuff is a bit tricky, especially because it's every week.
Yeah.
For Hacker Nest, for me, it's once a month. So I can at least sit down and schedule stuff.
And you have a cat, too.
2.
You didn't add that to the list of things.
Yeah, whatever. He self-maintains.
He self-maintains. Yeah, cats do that, don't they?
Let's not talk about my cat.
So let's talk about the future then. So
we I think our wins have been like that we managed to get 30 minutes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we did some tweaks and peaks. And
we need to do a bit more marketing. We've been talking about that because that will help us. Right now, definitely our viewers or our listeners are in KW area.
Yep.
And we've got some in the Valley.
Yeah, it seems like it's half and half.
And we suspect that the people that are listening to us in the Valley are former KW people.
They just miss the Canadian accent.
Yeah, they miss home. They'll come home eventually. Come home.
Expats.
But there is definitely an appeal if we can get startups to talk about the real stuff, less about a commercial for the company, but the real struggles of startupness. And perhaps that means we pivot a bit and not necessarily talking to the direct startups, but talking to the
employees.
Yeah, the experts in that. So maybe we have one on marketing and we talk to the marketing people. I don't know.
We talked about sort of breaking it up more taggable so that if you're looking for a podcast on marketing, you can find us when we're talking about marketing or to a marketing company or something like that.
So we're still pivoting with that. I'm not sure if that works, but we're definitely going to do more marketing and try and continue to tweak our structure so that we can ask those questions and get the proper answers.
And in a larger scope, TechFarm is getting ready to sort of
do big things.
Have a rocket boost added to it. So that's going to be neat.
Well, that would be part of our marketing. I mean, they like us enough to allow us to continue to be underneath their umbrella.
Whoa, very skillfully done.
Thank you.
Yes, they. I was going to say they like us enough to continue talking to us every week.
Well, no, but they
they
post our stuff on their website, which means that we're under their umbrella.
Yes, I get it now for sure. So Kendra's coming on board, and she's going to help rock that.
Yeah, and I think that there are some things that could be made from that we could offer. I mean, we work really well together, the Oak and Rumble dudes. That'll help. I think that's a big thing for us in the future. We might also talk about not doing it every week.
Right.
Because you have a full-time job now. I also have a full-time job and still all those other things. So.
Yep. So maybe a better strategy for us. We've got some of the post-production down to be on rails pretty much. But maybe posting it on Sunday instead of Monday, like I did last week. That might be a thing. Yeah.
We'll work on that and we'll figure that out. I think that the nice part of this town is that everyone understands that everyone's a startup. So they're pretty forgiving and that, hey, we can grow and change.
Yeah, that's been one of the most awesomest things.
It's totally not a word.
Is that everybody we've approached, only out of 100 episodes, only one company canceled on us because it just didn't fit. They didn't want to be seen as a startup, which I get. That was part of their. I didn't really agree with it because I thought it was disingenuous, but I get it.
You understand.
I get it. Yeah, I get why they did it.
But we have plans to talk to some of the big companies because the reality is all these startups, their goal is to be big.
Right.
But you had so those big companies were once a startup and they have some really good things they can teach. Even when we talked to Igloo, that was, I mean, there are just over 100 people, but they were able to, Dan was able to talk about the useful things that other startups could learn, some tools that they could learn.
Yep.
And so we have plans to talk to some even monster-sized companies that are in town. I mean, we obviously know we're not going to talk to BlackBerry that I know of, but that was one of those startups that was local. It started at 2 people or 3 people, whatever it was, and grew to a huge number, has since declined from that. But there are some other companies in town that we could talk to that they're not a startup anymore, but they were. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, it's great that everybody says, sure, we'll absolutely come on the podcast. You can come into our house and record, or we'll come over to your place.
Yep.
Just like the Firkin here today. When I approached them yesterday, said, absolutely, come on in. And thank you.
You were worried, but I knew them.
Yeah.
They'd be fine.
Really cool people. So anything else? Do we do a startup crush this week?
Sure. I was going to talk. Lanny Labs is a company I really like.
Yeah, Pablo.
Yeah, well, because Pablo's so awesome, that's really what I know first is that Pablo's so awesome. And so I have learned a little bit more about what he does. And they just got a cool article written in the Record about them, but they're starting to make a bit more noise, which is great. He's got other people on board. So that has helped.
I like his fashion sense, too. He's not afraid of, suspenders and stuff.
I apparently have a pair of suspenders waiting for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Suspenders and a poncho.
No ponchos.
I like the look.
No ponchos.
So Lanny Labs is a connection of 3D printers. So you can print something on their sort of network of 3D printers.
Because not everyone needs a 3D printer, but a lot of people want to be able to print things. So I think that's kind of neat. They're working on some things that will be
unveiled shortly.
I suppose.
So that's one of the things that we've been thinking about is going back and looking at some of the people that we've already talked to over the course of 100 episodes and having them back on. We've done that a couple times, but we'd like to maybe do that again.
Yeah, and we have, I've been talking to a few that are ready to do that. So.
Cool.
Who's your startup crush?
Geez, my startup crush. What I really like is now that I'm working in Velocity, like you said, it's less the company and more the people now.
Yep.
So there are people that I am connecting with all the time. I really like the guys at Pallet and what Pallet's doing.
I like them too, yeah.
Pallet gear.
Yeah.
Really slick looking knobs and buttons.
Yeah.
Those guys are really doing really cool stuff.
Yeah, and they've...
That's not a very good advertisement for them.
No.
They're doing cool stuff, but...
No, but they have... Some companies blow up and they do a crazy amount of recruiting and they do all the... What I like is a company that stays lean, because you'll often hear about layoffs because they ran out of funding or that. What I like is when a company stays lean, and I think Pallet has done a really good job of staying lean and being successful.
Yeah,
it allows them to pivot easier. It allows them to do what they need to do. It's
a great marriage of really cool people and a really cool product, and that's really what I get a big kick out of. So,
and you can tell when a company has chosen the right people because they stay on board.
Yep.
And there's that good team bond that kind of keeps everyone there.
That's true.
It really is all about the people.
Yep. Speaking of all about the people, next week we're talking to Rachel Friesen from iCheck.
Oh yeah.
So iCheck has like a contacts lens that's checking your.
It's cool. No, I like it. Yeah, and they're in a space that we don't always talk about. It's not straight up. It's not software. It's not an app.
Yeah, I don't think it is a contacts lens, but they're getting your prescription somehow.
Yeah, it's not a contact lens. Yeah. It's a prescription.
Yeah. So look for them next week.
Yes, but we're no longer going to say weeks. We're just gonna say.
I got a lot of work to do.
Episode 102. We'll be talking to iCheck.
I like that. 102. Yeah, we're already there.
Yep.
Thanks, folks, for joining us on this episode of the Tech Startup Podcast, or TSP Weekly. For myself, Stephen Campbell, and my soon-to-be leader of the next podcast, Amaris Gerson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on episode 102. Yeah, that was our best exit ever.